I'll just use that. Hi, everyone. It's awesome to be here. I heard it's the nicest room we got. That I was lucky to get it, so it's really cool. First, I'm super honored to be here and talk about growth. So, welcome everyone. I am working on the growth team at Adobe. I lead the growth organization in the Creative Cloud business. And I'm going to talk to you about why you should be building a growth team and how. And I'm sure you've heard about growth. You've heard maybe about growth hacking. I'm not a huge fan of the term hacking, and we can talk about why. Because it implies that there's like a magic trick, tactics, and things to basically make your company grow in one night. It doesn't work like that. But who's familiar with growth already? Okay. And who's like, oh, I have no idea what this is. I'm just gonna just check it out. Okay, cool. Great. Hello.
One quick thing is, all you guys have a microphone on the desk, and when you have questions, make sure you push the microphone so everybody can hear.
Great.
Basically.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate. It's cool if it's even if it's interactive. So let's get started. I'll make it brief. Like, who is this guy talking right now? So I started as a designer, and it was back in like 1998. I feel old. Started using the Adobe products, and I realized quickly that if I wanted to make money on the side as a freelance, kind of like a student, I needed to code to build websites. So I became a developer. And then went to kind of like education in some ways. I became a programming teacher in a company that does training to kind of like employees and companies. I had a lot of fun. I wrote some books. And I love, in general, writing because writing helps you learn. I keep telling my team, keep writing, because that's how you learn. And then I became technical sales, which was a weird transition from going from programming to sales, as you can imagine. But it was great because I actually discovered really the value of sales, because coming from engineering, I kind of like, to be honest, disrespected sales and marketing. I was like, this is useless. Just build cool shit and people will just use the product. And I realized how important sales is. And then I moved to product management. Since I've been at Adobe, I've been doing product management for B2B when we were building tools for developers, obviously designers, professional designers. And then I moved to projects more B2C with projects like Spark, where we build tools for almost consumers, people who want to create beautiful content for their companies, but that they're not professionals. They have other things on the side, and so we need to make the tools much simpler. When I'm not working with data and stuff in growth, I mix flour and water. That's what I do. This is my little company, Slow Bread, and I deliver bread at Adobe to employees. So I have my little cart in Monday, and I just drop bread to my colleagues, and it's cool. I use this product called Subly. I'm not affiliated with it, but it's great. It's like got Stripe integration and everything, and it's cool. I bring bread to my VPs and stuff, and it's cool. If I ever become, big, maybe you'll be like, I remember this guy. But for now, it doesn't really pay the bills. It's just really just for fun, and it's great to be doing something on the side and not be in front of the computer. So before we talk about growth and what it is, why, and how you should run growth, it's very important to remember that it starts with product market fit. I keep telling that in my organization to new product organization. They have a product that they're working on. It's not even out. People have never seen it. It's not even in beta. And they're like, oh, we should have a growth team. And you're like, no, I mean, we can't even run quantitative analysis. We can talk to customers who've used it. We're not even sure that the product is going to be successful and solves a problem. Why do you want to have a growth team? I tell my organization, the growth team is literally pouring gas on the sparkle, on the flame, to optimize and grow something that already has organic retention. But if you don't have that sparkle, the growth team is not going to be successful. If you look online, you always hear like Shamat from Social Capital, head of growth at Facebook, or Casey Winters in Pinterest, and all these great growth leaders. But what we have to understand is that at the same time, the product that these guys work on are really, really, really awesome products, right? So what you want to do is have a growth organization and team when you feel like the product is, there's something good in it, it's solving a problem, people love it, but there's a ton of things we could optimize. That's when growth steps in. You don't want to put kind of like the cart before the horse. So what does that mean? I mean, it's really about retention. There's qualitative insights and quantitative. Qualitative means you have literally customers telling you, I love your product, NPS and other ways to capture that. And there's quantitative analysis where you can just look at your retention curve and look, let's say this is what bad retention looks like. Ultimately, if you were to stretch this to like week 100, it would go down to 0. Literally, you're not retaining customers. And at the top, you've got good retention. Ideally, investor would want to see a smile. We call that the smile curve. But if it stabilizes and it stays in that range, obviously, depending on your business, the range might be different. If you're social media, you probably want to be above 60, 70. But depending on the business, whatever the rate is, you want to stabilize. And when you have that stabilization, you can say, OK, what can we do to optimize? And then you can start thinking about growth. So if the users are not sticking around, you really want to spend time figuring that out first and do quantitative and qualitative research. And then once you have that, go to growth. So I'm going to split this presentation in three three steps. What is growth? Why do you want to have a growth team? And how do you run it? What? Generally, when you talk about growth to people who've never been exposed to it, it feels like, well, isn't that marketing? And it's true, growth in some ways is marketing. But we'll see that it's a little bit different. Some people say it's the future of marketing or it's new marketing, it's just better marketing. You'll tell me at the end of this presentation. Maybe you already have an opinion. Some people say, no, it's kind of the future of product management. And personally, I actually really don't know. Maybe in 10 years, it will become just the way we build products and PM skills or marketing. Who knows? We'll talk about why do you want to have a growth team? Because generally, people will tell you, well, we all care about growing the products. We all care about onboarding. We all care about customer satisfaction. But you'll see that what happens is that when everyone thinks about it, no one's really doing it. And then how do you want to run a team? And that's based on my learnings because I made that mistake. I realized how much I didn't know when I started doing growth. It's a constant, I'm constantly learning. As I build these slides, I realize that I still have stuff to learn. But I'm going to share where I'm at and how we've been running growth teams at Adobe and some of the mistakes that we did. And hopefully you can learn from that. OK, so what is growth? So growth is a blend of multiple disciplines, product engineering, marketing, and user research. And so when you hire for growth, you want to make sure, at least that's the way I think about it, I really look for people that have product intuition and product sense. Because for me, marketing and growth is an extension of the product experience. People who think that marketings are useless, that emails are useless, or that marketing is not really important for the growth of a product are wrong. When the first email you get, the first notification, the way you do social media, where you fish for your customers, everything, all that machine is part of the product experience. And it needs to be really, really well thought. And so it's important that you have people in growth that understand what is a good product experience. Also, in a lot of the insights that you'll get from quantitative and queries from data analysts, you have to apply common sense and product intuition on top of that. Because sometimes the data is going to tell you something. So quant is going to disagree with qual. And you're like, oh, OK. Well, you have to make a call. And generally, my sense is that you go with qual because you can get much more granular about the learnings. And frankly, often, you've instrumented things in the wrong way. And so your quantitative analysis is not correct. Engineering is very important because you want to be able to make changes in the products. You want to be able to change the onboarding. You want to be able to add features. We'll talk about product management and growth. Actually, growth goes inside product. It's not just channels like emails or and other channels, but it's also the product experience. So you need to have engineers. Marketing, you want people who really respect marketing and understand what marketing is and how you leverage marketing to grow your product. And people who are not afraid to get into the data in Excel, write queries, write some Python to see if something is statistically significant or not, do some forecasting with some libraries, and be able to make sense of data without necessarily relying on a data analyst at all times. So this is a great slide that I can't really show. I mean, at Adobe, I didn't really want to show this slide because it's a little bit controversial. Because you can imagine how it goes. It's like, oh, so I guess marketing is not cool. And it's not that. It's just that that's the reality, is that marketing has been historically more about awareness and acquisition. The analogy, I don't know if it's going to work, but I was talking to a friend in the office today. To me, it's like you have a party going on, and you get people, you build the flyers, and then you get people at the door of the party, and you're like, okay, now, like, just, this is not my part, just get in and figure this out. For me, growth is like building the flyers, get the person in, give a high five to the DJ, spend an awesome night, take the Uber, bring them back home, the full experience, holistic experience. And so it's not just about awareness and acquisition is where we're going to get people, but it's activation, and we'll talk about that, which is the most important part of your funnel, which is the part where the user is going to discover the value of the product and you want to form a habit, retention, revenue, and referral. And so that's very important. This is a holistic exercise where the team is going to be working on all these different steps. Generally, historically, you have marketing handing off to product, handing off to sales, and you've got silos. And the experience for the user is very, very fragmented. You feel like, are these people working together? Like, why am I getting this message? And why things don't really feel smooth? Whereas with growth, the role of the team is to really make sure that the experience is holistic. So the R funnel is acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, referral. These are the steps in your funnel. And you've got acquisition, I mean, you know what it is. Activation, get the users to build a habit. People call it onboarding. We'll see that it's much more sophisticated than just onboarding, but for now, you can think about it as onboarding. Retention, nurturing the relationship, and then revenue and referral. So what are the principles of that team? First, we try, and I made that mistake, and I've been learning, is you don't want to confuse activity with output and results. You can have a lot of people busy, but not really moving anything. And what we want to do is make sure that in the way we work and prioritize things, we always forecast the impact of what we're going to be doing, and I'll walk you through the process. It's a blend of different skills. It's about rapid experimentation. A/B testing is one way, which is obviously common for growth. And it's about velocity. One of the things that I've observed at Adobe in some teams is that it sometimes takes a long time to run an experiment. And I was telling our executives, if we are failing quickly, at some point we're going to be like, okay, we're doing things wrong. Like, it's not working. But if you're failing slowly, like, you're doomed. In like 2 years, you're going to be like, okay, we're still trying. Like, you really want to make sure you optimize for velocity so that you can learn as quickly as possible. I know it sounds cliche, like fail fast, but it's true. You want to be able to fail fast. It's end-to-end, and most importantly, it's never done. It's not like you don't do growth like, hey, I'm going to work on growth for 2 weeks to fix our onboarding, and I'll be back. No, you're going to be gone forever. Because the product is going to evolve, you're going to go into different channels, your onboarding is going to be different if you acquire from social media or SEO and SEM, maybe if you think that's worth doing. But you get the point, right? It's never done. It's an ongoing thing. So when we started doing growth and building a growth, oops, sorry, yes?
Sorry, do you want us to?
Yeah, that's cool.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the question was, when you start, you have a low number of users, so the sample is pretty small, so you're not going to be statistically significant. This is where I'd use common sense and product intuition and qualitative feedback. So you look at your data, you can do the test. It might be trending towards positive or negative. But at the beginning, it's very important you rely on qualitative. And what you do, you want to make sure you can do in-product surveys. You can do good randomization. You can make sure that you survey people. There's selection bias in surveys, right? People who get into a survey have more intent, so there will be some skewing of the data. But you want to make sure you leverage all the ways you can actually talk to users so that you can get that qualitative feedback. And I think that's very important at the beginning. And even at Adobe, in some areas of the product, sometimes we're not static. And so we have to go back with the team and make a decision and based on qualitative insights. Sure. It's a great question. So this is a framework from Chamath Palihapitiya, who was the first head of growth at Facebook. He's now the CEO of Social Capital. I have a lot of respect for him because he laid out a lot of the stuff that we're picking up now in terms of framework and way of thinking about growth. And when we started doing growth at Adobe, there was this question, as a former product manager who moved to growth, I can see that conversation. I can imagine how product managers would feel. It's like, oh, now there's a growth team, and they're going to be making changes in their products. They're going to tell you how to onboard your users, and they're going to make a ton of suggestions, and they're going to change the product, and you're going to work with them. And so there's this like, oh, okay, but I guess what is the relationship between the two? And it's really about building that trust and making sure that you come to the team, to the product team, as a way of saying, you want to say, I'm here to help. I want to help. There are some things that we could optimize. What can I do for you? And the product team will always say, oh my God, that's awesome. We've been trying to fix onboarding, or we know that this has been terrible for years. Can you help? So this is where you want to start to really build that trust. And so the product team is building core value. They're working on how do I solve this problem for my customer, and they're writing core features. The growth team is here to make sure that the largest amount of people can experience the value of the product. Because, I mean, generally, when you look at first-time users using your product, it's really, you know, kind of like a wake-up call. You realize how bad it is. Because we, as engineers, product managers, marketers, are a terrible representation of human exposed to technology. We think, oh, it's pretty cool. Yeah, there's like a little thing. You start talking to someone, and then you click. Like, you know that most people will be like, what the hell is this? How does that work? So it's really important that you work with the team in making sure that you also expose that data and these insights to the product team and say we can optimize things. And then you work with the product team in symbiosis to make sure that you grow the product, working with the product team, to make sure that growth is built as part of the product. Growth is built as part of the product experience. Think about virality or again onboarding or all kinds of things you can do, but you want to make sure that the features of the product can also drive growth. So these are typical shower questions. If I'm a product manager, who's my audience? What is the product? What's the problem that I'm solving? In growth, you're thinking more about where are the opportunities? Where are people falling off? Is that a big problem? How much of that is a problem? What is activation in my product? And then with the product team, you start thinking about how these two things work together. How do we get people back to the product? Is the frequency enough? What are the levers we can pull so that a user is going to come back to the app to do something in an authentic way, not with spamming, and this is how you realize you can actually start thinking about features to get people to build a habit around your core value prop and increase frequency and grow your product. Okay, so that was the what. Let's talk about why. Is it still interesting? Okay. So the first time we talked about growth at Adobe, there was this feeling of, but we're already doing it in some ways. We all care about growth. We have product managers that really care about their customers. They talk to them. They do qualitative research, surveys. They go on the phone, talk to them. Engineers really care about quality and performance. The entire organization is about growing the product. And it's true, but when you get into the details, and I'm sure you're probably going to be thinking, oh yeah, I've seen that, is the moment you come in and you say, hey, can we add this instrumentation? Can we do that? Something that's marketing related, it will generally get deprioritized. Because there's always a milestone. There's always something coming up. A conference, a new, we need to raise more money. We're going to do Series A or B. We need to do this and that. And then you got to crank the features, do the press release, get people to experience the magical vision that you have. But it turns out that when it comes to onboarding people or the experience that comes around to make sure that you've got everything together, things will get deprioritized. Because sadly, sadly, that's the reality. Product comes first because that's where you start. If you don't have a product that solves a problem, you don't have growth. But the problem is when one is at the expense of the other. And what you want is say, it's all right, the product team, you can keep working on what you do, but we have capacity to help you in parallel to do these things. And that changes dramatically the conversation, because at Adobe, when I go talk to vice presidents or product teams and I say, we're going to work on this, we're going to improve that area of the product, it's like, I don't have engineers. Okay, well, and over time, you build the trust, the relationship, and then you get one engineer. In our case, we have engineers, and we can say, oh, we have engineers that can help. And it's like, oh, that's great, you can help. Of course, do everything you want. So generally, that's my face in meetings after hearing from my product colleagues that none of the things that we want to do in instrumentation and other areas of the product are going to be done. So that's why we came up with this idea of having product teams with separate growth teams. So Adobe has 33 products, I think, that you see that people can actively download. We have way more, but some of them are not necessarily promoted, and some of them are not necessarily supported, but 33 products. So if we want to scale, if we want to do growth, how do we do this? And I believe right now, maybe it's going to change, maybe next year I'll be like, oh, I've changed my mind, but it's a constant learning experience. We have to have a distributed model where growth teams are embedded in the product teams and can drive growth inside the product team with the product empathy, with the designers, with the team. Having a team that's parachuted and say, hey guys, we're going to solve all your problems. We don't really know your customers, but no problem, we're going to fix it, generally doesn't go well. What you want to do is say, hey, here's a designer, here's an engineer, here's a product manager. We give you these resources, and all of these people are going to be working on growth to help you. And generally, product teams are like, oh, that's awesome. Okay, what are you guys going to do? And you start building that relationship, and then the growth team can really be that growth muscle in the product team. So if you're in a startup, it's simple. You generally have one product, so the growth team works with that team. But think about a company like Microsoft, where they have growth teams for Office, for other products. They have to, I think last time I talked to someone who works there, they need to have also a distributed model where you have these teams embedded in product teams. Because again, product sense, product empathy is so important that you need to be able to build that empathy as a growth PM in the team and not do context switching. If I am working on Lightroom, our photography product, as a growth lead, and then the next day I'm working on Spark, which is for consumers, completely different audience and product experience, it's very hard to really be doing a good job because you're constantly switching between the products and the audience and everything. So when I started, it was me and an engineer. Literally, like, we didn't have design. It's fine because the changes that we made were not about design. It was just changing the text of buttons and changing the position and rearranging things. So we're like, oh, that's silly. Why don't we do that? And then we saw result and impact on these changes, on just moving things. And I'm not trying to say that there's, again, this magic trick, or it's not about just the tactics, but it was a good way to get executives excited. Because we'll talk about that. It's crucial that you have executive sponsorship for growth, all up to the CEO, so that you have support from them. Because at the beginning, a lot of what you're going to do is going to fail. And that's all right, because 70–80% of what you're going to do at all times in growth is going to fail, but you're going to learn. But you need to have a CEO or a vice president that can say, it's all right, that team is setting up, that's the way growth works, It's about velocity. We're going to be learning. We're going to be iterating. But what you want to do is get some quick wins so that you can say, see, there's something there. We're on the right trajectory. So that's very important that you start small, because if you show up and say, hey, CEO, I need 6 designers, 5 product managers, 10 engineers, it's going to be like, oh, hold on. Like, this is a new thing. We could put these resources on the product. So you want to start super lean. Initially, I went to an engineer that was very good with data analysis. He used to write a lot of queries for another company. And I was like, hey, why don't we team up? I have some hypothesis. We can write some queries together, mostly you. And then we can maybe make some changes and see the result. And that worked. And that engineer was like, oh, this is awesome. We should do more of that. And then with that quick win, I went to my general manager, and he was like, why don't you do that for all of the product line? Like, you have right now just one engineer. I can give you maybe a designer. And I can give you a PM. And that's how you start growing. So at Adobe, when we create these growth teams that we call growth squads, and I'll tell you at the end why do we call them squads and not teams, it's a PM, an engineer, a marketer, a designer, and a data analyst. And that's it. Ideally, you want that engineer to be from the product team. If not, that's fine. But it's better because they know the code base. You want a marketer so that that person has expertise in the channels, open rate, conversion rates, acquisition, cost of acquisition, all that stuff. When you're a PM, maybe that's new stuff to you. So you want that person with that expertise. A designer so that it looks good and it's a beautiful experience. And a data analyst, someone that's going to say, nope, that didn't work. Or yes, it did.
Sorry, just one quick question. That's a PM of the growth squad, or that is the PM of the product that the growth squad is inserted?
Oh, good question. Thank you for asking. The question is that PM the PM of the product or the squad or the team? It's the PM of the growth team. But it's a really good point. One of the things we do is that we also have the product manager of the product team attend the meetings to have an understanding of what's happening and provide additional feedback, history, qualitative insights. When the growth team is like, oh, we should test that, a product manager can say, well, guys, you're new. 3 years ago, we did that. It failed. Oh, OK, can we look at it? Yes, I have an old PDF. Let's look at it together. But you want to make sure that there's connection so that when the growth team is going to get some success, the PM is going to be able to tell the product team, hey, guys, there's some cool stuff happening in that team. Let me tell you all about it. But the thing is, it's not just about the technical skills, and I've learned my mistake. When you assemble a team, it's really also a mindset. We've had great engineers who wanted to join the growth team, and some of them were really passionate about building, writing beautiful code and writing architecture and really be thinking about the architecture of the system. And the growth team is not really about this. It's about velocity and technology as a means to an end, using third-party tools if there's something better. And so we had moments where there was a great technical engineer who realized it's not really for me. Like, I'm not here to throw away code. I'm here to write, like, solve hard technical problems. So you want people, and I was talking to Darius Contractor at Dropbox recently, and he was telling me it's very important for them too that the culture needs to be around experimentation. So recently I was interviewing an engineer, and the moment when I realized that person was a person we could hire and I wanted to hire was he said, I want to see the impact of my code in the next 3 weeks. What I write, I want to be able to see the impact of what I write. I don't want to be writing code and have no understanding of what's the impact of my contribution. And I thought, wow, that's awesome, because that is the kind of engineer that's going to be totally fine ripping off code and say we're off to the next thing. OK, so that was the why. How do you run a growth team? That's the toughest part. Yes?
Sorry, you might actually answer this, right? I was going to ask, when you say velocity, how many experiments are you running a week?
Great question. The question is, how many experiments do you run a week? Right now, it's a good question. It depends on the product and the team. If you're Facebook, you have 500 people on the growth team. Obviously, it's like insane. For us right now, for the growth team, the new growth team we've assembled, probably maybe 4 or 5 tests that are running a week. But the thing is, these tests take at least 2-3 weeks to get stat sig sometimes. So I'd say right now, it's probably like 4 or 5 tests a month. But the thing is, and this is why it's so important that you pick the right tests, because the volume, the number can be impressive, but what you want is really target the most important things that you want to optimize for, and I'll show you how. But yeah, that's where we are right now. And one of the ways you can scale that up is by investing in your platform, which is what we're doing. We're actually building an experimentation platform at Adobe for all the products. And right now, it's a platform that's still new. So I don't think in the stages that I'll talk about, between crawling, walk, and run, we're still crawling. So the pillars of a growth team. Who has heard of this concept of Northstar metric? I know it's like very popular. It's like the growth hacking. I should probably register northstarmetric.com. It's probably taken already. Someone should check it out. But Northstar metric, we'll talk about that. A growth model, super important. This is something that I learned from Reforge. There's a Reforge alumni here. Great program. I encourage all of you guys to take reforge.com. Run by Brian Balfour and Andrew Chen. And what I learned from this training, it's like 8 weeks. Is it 8 weeks? And then you go in person, give you a ton of homework. But the thing that I learned, was a lot of things, but growth model is one of the most important things I learned from it. Qualitative research is an important aspect. In every growth team that I create, there's always a user researcher. And that's because I come from product, and I believe that a lot of it is driven by product sense and intuition. Use data to validate, but it starts with some level of intuition on what you can improve. The queries won't tell you everything, especially for people who never use your product. Right? So if you want to understand why people don't use your product, you need to talk to them. That's the only way. Growth pipeline, which is how we organize our tests with the frameworks to prioritize what are we going to be doing first. And then the experimentation platform and the sprints. So initially, when you start a team or you talk to a team that's about to do tests, it goes like this. We should send push notification. I've read an article about push notification. They really drive engagement. I actually was that guy. When I started growth, I was like, oh, push notifications are super useful. We should leverage them. And yes, you should, but what's the goal? What is your hypothesis? And how do you actually leverage push notification in an authentic way so that it's not spammy and really drive usage? But generally, people go with tactics first. It's like, oh, we should totally do this. And it's OK. It's not that you shouldn't use push notification or increase opening click rates. These are good things to move. But this shouldn't be where you start the conversation. The conversation should start with the data. What is happening? Show me how many people retain after 30 days. Show me what happens in the first week. Show me the features that are being used and not. Have we done surveying? What's your NPS? All that stuff. It starts with qualitative and quantitative insights. And then you start developing a hypothesis and you go validate that. But you don't start and run with the tactics. So where do you have a problem and where do you want to focus? If you look at your R funnel, activation is the most important part of your funnel. And why is that? A few reasons. And this is common sense. Activation is from the moment you sign up to, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm using this consistently in the first 28 days. If you improve activation, you're going to drive an increase in retention. So you're going to drive increase in conversion to paid because a happy user will probably pay more than an unhappy user. You're going to increase virality because that person is going to be happy. So as we like to say, activation, if it goes up, it will lift all boats, your retention and all the other metrics. So this is the most impactful part of your funnel because it's also the only area that 100% of your users will see. So it's very important you optimize that. And generally, what I encourage my growth teams to do is to start with activation. Because that's the first impression you're making on your users. If you nail that, it's like a date, right? If you make an awesome impression, you'll have more chances to see that person again. So very important that you understand activation. And we're gonna talk more about that. Another thing that it's very important is you need to pick a Northstar metric. And generally, when you talk to a company or a product team about their Northstar metric, they'll say, oh, it's weekly active users or MAU. And this is totally fine to look at MAU as a way to measure the health of the business. When we talk to Shantanu, our CEO, we talk about MAU. And we're now breaking down between churn, new, lapse, and everything to get really clarity on what that means. What are the subsegments in these MAU? But when you say to a product growth team, the Northstar metric is MAU, it is very, very hard to make this actionable. You go back to your desk and you're like, it doesn't even define what an active user means. What is an active user? Think about Photoshop or any of our products. What is an active user? You're thinking, well, I open a document, I make some edits, maybe I save it. But when you're like a marketer and a growth person and you start thinking about the way you want to drive usage, if you don't know exactly what is the thing that makes people retain, and that means that the product is useful and that the user is getting value of the product, it's very hard to come up with strategies to drive the product, drive growth. So metrics like DAO, WOW, or MAU are fine as to have in your dashboard, but they're terrible Northstar metrics. They are lagging indicators. If you want MAU or WOW to move up, you need to figure out what are the input metrics, the things that you need to move short term to drive that up. So I'm going to walk you through an example that, for instance, for one of our products, and we can discuss if that makes sense. So what you want is you want to pick a leading indicator of success because, and there's a great article from the LinkedIn research team. If you say MAU, by definition, it takes a month for you to know if a test is successful. Because you're saying, if this is successful, then we will increase MAU by 2%. OK, now let's wait a month. Yes, but what is a leading indicator that you could look at before? And they are. For the MAU to go up in Photoshop, you need to be doing some actions in Photoshop. And this is where you can do correlation analysis to figure out what is this action that is correlated with retention. Bad Northstar examples. Monthly unique sessions, new signups, mobile installs. Again, you can track that and you can look at it and it's important, but it shouldn't be the Northstar because it doesn't capture user value. Examples from the industry. Casey Winters, who was head of growth at Pinterest, talks openly about this. At Pinterest, for them, it was weekly, and it is, I think, still weekly repins. At Uber, weekly trips, yearly guests for Airbnb. For repins and trips, this is from interviews with these guys. For Zoom and WhatsApp and Airbnb, this is just me guessing. But for these products, for Zoom or WhatsApp messages, it makes sense. These are the Northstar that you want to look at. If the number of guests, the number of trips, and all these metrics go up, the product can only be successful because the people are getting value. So the benefit of that Northstar is that it's memorable, measurable, and actionable. You show up in the morning and your team is like, OK, I need to improve the number of weekly trips. That's my Northstar. It's not about, OK, maybe we should improve the landing page, or hey, why don't we fix push notifications? It's like, no. OK, start with the goal, and then you can think about the tactics. So the thing is that weekly messages sent or weekly trips, these are still lagging indicator, but again, it defines what an active user means. And now you can actually start thinking about the input metrics that move that Northstar. So how do you find that Northstar metric? It's a combination of qualitative and qualitative research. We're doing that as we speak at Adobe. And what that means is that we go talk to customers and we see how to use the product, but we also do correlation analysis and we say, OK, out all of the people that are using our products after 28 days, have been using the product for years now, what is the thing that they keep doing that is highly correlated with retention? And what's interesting is that I asked that question to Photoshop team recently. And they came back with a list of 10 actions. They were like, well, what correlates with retention is open. That makes sense. Opening a document. Save. OK. Time spent in the app. The more it goes up, yes, it retains. And they had 10 actions. And now, to your question, like, which one do you pick? We could pick any, And we're like, okay, well, let's think about it. What is the North Star that we want to get? If you say the North Star is save, does that make sense to like have number of save as a North Star? Not really, and you can see how this is going to go with like not really with like dark practices of like tell people to say, it doesn't make sense. You can't even encourage that. That's an internal side effect of feeling successful. You're going to save or not. But open, okay. The thing that we're thinking about right now is the one thing that you got to keep doing over time is exporting something out of the product. If you're going back to Photoshop or any of our products, Premiere, Illustrator, InDesign, and you're coming back to the product every month for 2 years and you're never saving something, I don't know what you're doing. We love having you as a customer, but I wonder if you're really getting value. And so this is important that you apply product sense and product intuition. Luckily, export is a highly correlated action with retention, so we're actually going to be picking this one. So once you have that North Star, let's go back to Zoom, for instance, with like number of weekly hosted meetings. And you're a growth product manager at Zoom, and you're thinking, okay, that's my North Star metric. What are the leading indicators? Well, you can imagine the number of recurring meeting invites set up if you have integration with Outlook, or if you have an integration with Slack where it detects that you want to set up a meeting. If you want to increase the number of times that people set up a reminder, and it's a leading indicator that you're going to be moving that North Star. So these are examples of how you can actually take your North Star and figure out what are the input metrics. And so for our products, if we take weekly active exports, let's hypothesize that's our North Star metric. Then there's different frequency. And that is something that might be different for your product. But at Adobe, think about it. Someone that launches Photoshop, millions of people open Photoshop every month. And then what they do, they have a different intent. Maybe there's my sister who just started her business, and she wants to design a business card. She has no intent to go read a book. She just wants to design a business card. Well, first off, if you want to design a business card, Photoshop is the wrong tool. You don't do raster, you use Illustrator. But Illustrator is even harder. But just to put things in perspective, you've got that person that wants to create a business card, non-professional, and will probably spend 10 minutes trying. And then you've got a 25-year-old student who is super passionate about design, who wants to work in the film industry. He's got 6 books. He's like, I'm doing this. Well, the frequency is going to be different. A hobbyist trying your product and a pro have different frequency and natural frequency of usage. And what you don't want to do is pick a target for your North Star metric that is unrealistic. So it would be unrealistic of us to say, when a hobbyist start using Lightroom, we want that person to export pretty much every day. We know from qualitative research that a dad or working on his photography for his kids, or a mom working on the weekends to do beautiful photography using Lightroom, they use it in the weekend. So maybe 7 exports in the first 28 days is a good natural frequency. If you were to notify or talk to a customer that is a hobbyist at the frequency of a pro, that person can be like, oh, chill. Like, I'm using this thing once a month. I love you, but stop. This is enough. But a pro might be like, yeah, bring me the social community stuff. Where's the Facebook group for Photoshop? Oh, awesome, new tutorials. Oh, that new extension that I can install. And so you got to be realistic in the customer segments and the frequency of your users. Otherwise, it's just going to feel wrong. Yes?
So is the North Star metric independent of revenue? Because I know that for some of these products, you have to buy them first in order to even use them.
Right. So for me, it's generally not a good idea to connect revenue with the North Star, because for me, revenue is an output of a successful product usage. And what you don't want is to have the growth team be thinking about the revenue first. What needs to come first is what is making the user successful. And out of this, it will drive revenue. Now, you can have, when you scale, there are product organizations that have multiple growth teams. and each team is working on each specific area of the R funnel. So you can have a growth team working on acquisition, a growth team working on activation, and as the user goes along the journey, the users pass to the other team. Oh, that user is activated, now nurture that relationship, and that team is super focused on that. And you can have a conversion team, a revenue team. And the job of that team is making sure that the whole experience, that the credit card transaction doesn't fail, that you send the right reminder at the right time, that you communicate, and all that stuff. So the North Star for me is really about product usage, core value, the core value that you're getting out of the product. And revenue is another North Star metric that you can track, but not the primary one, because for me it's really about product usage. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
I was just wondering, but in the case where you actually have to buy the product before you can even use it.
Yes, I don't like these products, but it's true. In that scenario, it's a good question. I don't have any. Let's talk about it. I'd love to talk about that. I said this I don't like because I was using a product recently and I really wanted to use it, and I had to talk to a salesperson before using it. And I was like, okay, and I found an alternative that I didn't have to talk to a salesperson. It was not as good, and I ended up using the bad one. So I'm angry at this company that did that. But I'm sure you have a great product. So let's talk about an example like Lightroom. Who knows Lightroom? Okay. We could do better at this. No, it's all right. It's all right. It's a different, it's a professional, actually not necessarily professional, but it's a photography product used by hobbyists and photographers around the world because we realized that Photoshop could do a lot of these things, but it could be simpler in a specific product. So we created Lightroom. So let's talk about the North Star and how could we actually figure out the input metrics to figure out kind of the activation funnel here. So if our hypothesis is that 7 exports in the first 28 days is a good North Star for the team for activation, then you can work your way back and say, okay, all of the people that have that natural frequency, and you work with the data analyst, what are the things that they've done in the first week and the week after that is correlated with retention? And this is where you need to talk to customers. The aha moment is this moment where you've experienced that, where you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. And this moment is generally a really good indicator that you're going to keep trying using this product. But it's not a query that's going to tell you that. It's an interview. What made you fall in love with Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or Photoshop? Oh, the moment I really love Photoshop was the first time that I did that. Okay. Oh, that's a professional. And see if we can actually find patterns. So if you look at the journey of, if we wanted to design good onboarding, good activation, what you do is you take your North Star and you work your way back to day one, and you find the things that most people who have been successful with your product have done. And what you do is move most of your users to do these things because you know that if they do, they will more likely retain. So if quantitative analysis shows that importing a photo on day one is a good leading indicator, make this the first thing. Hi, welcome to Lightroom. Let's start by importing your photo. Oh, cool. Yeah, let's do that. Hey, why don't you create an album? This is another insight we have. Let's create an album. We know that when you create an album, you're putting your photos, you're doing an investment. You're going to come back to it because you did some investment. It's like putting all your music in iTunes and you don't want to move to Spotify because you're like, oh, I've got all my stuff in there. So you create an album where you're going to come back, and maybe the first aha moment for a dad or a mom retouching photos for their kids or for their family was the first white balance. Oh, the first time I did white balance and that photo I took at night was like, which was, all yellow is now super nice with like nice natural color. That was an awesome moment. So maybe what you want is test and say, hey, why don't we have you fix your first photo? Why don't you use white balance? And we can even detect in Lightroom if the picture needs that. So you see where I'm going. You want to develop these hypotheses on what successful onboarding activation would look like by using your North Star to guide you through and look at the patterns on the things that people have done that are doing these actions over time. Okay, I have not a lot of time left. Love to stay all day. Maybe not you, but I'll keep going. A few more slides, and then maybe we can do Q&A. So we've talked about what, why, how. We've talked about the Northstar metric. Now let's talk about the gut feel. What you want is move away from the gut feel. It's important you have intuition, but what I've seen sometimes is that the conversation on how to grow a product is literally just gut feel. It's like, oh, I think we should improve our emails because they suck. Okay, yes, but is that the most important thing that, that we can do? So what you want to do is really be thinking, is it worth doing rather than is it going to work? With the time that it's going to take us to do that, to redesign that email, and the time it's going to run, the time we're going to need to run it, and the expected impact of a success. Should we do that first? Well, and that's the conversation you want to have. So really, it's about forecasting, and for that, you use a growth model. So this is fake data, but this is a little tool that we built where what you do is basically you look at a product, and we gave that to the product teams, and we're like, okay, did you know that 90% of the people actually download your product, but 10% don't even download it? They paid for it. They've never downloaded it. People are like, what? Yeah, that happens. And why? Well, I don't know. Have you talked to customers? No. And maybe you'll figure out that some people got confused, and then they couldn't cancel, and they let this thing going, and now they're all pissed off on social media, and they can't use your product. Maybe you don't know, but on the second week, only 40%, 40% of users don't launch the app on second week. What? Yeah, I thought our product was just the best thing ever. Of course they're going to launch it the second week. Well, no, it turns out they don't. Okay, interesting. Maybe it's a frequency thing. Maybe if it's a hobbyist, it's totally fine. But the goal of this thing is to expose data in a way where you want this to be the center of the conversation, where it starts. Because what you're going to sometimes see is that, oh my God, 10% of our users don't download the app. We can literally just improve the way we communicate initially. It's going to take maybe a day of design. We can test that and lift that by 2%. And now the question is, okay, if we lift that by 2%, what is the impact on 4-week repeat? And now you can see that this is an old model that we're not going to be using anymore because it's a lagging indicator. What you want to have here is the Northstar metric, but let's assume you're using that, which is already a good start. What you want to say is, okay, if I have a 3% lift here, what does that mean for that? And if I have 2% lift here, what is the impact on this? So what we have is a forecast calculator where we can say, okay, if I do a 3% lift in download, is it better than 3% lift in repeat? And then what we do the math and we forecast the output of that. Because 3% in one area of the funnel is not the same as 3% in another. And so that's then the conversation, and data comes to a knife fight with a gun, right? You say, hey, whatever you think, if we do that, that's the best ROI. So you want to do this. So really you want to use that to forecast. And the way you do that is it's not even machine learning or anything fancy. It's just you look at historical data and you say, okay, if I move this variable by 3%, given it's a funnel, what's the output? So what I like to also remind my team is that qualitative tells you the what, quantitative tells you the what, but qual tells you the why. So that's why it's super important that you have the product team and the growth team build a ton of empathy. So what we do is, as a growth team, we fly, not all of us, that'd be a cool gig, but some of the members of the team rotate with the designer and researcher and product manager, and we fly, meet people. We were in Atlanta last week, and now next week in Miami, and we pick cities based on data. We look at where we have the biggest churn or the biggest drop-off in some specific cities, and we go talk to customers. And we go meet with them in their home. And the reason why you want to do that is because you really want to build empathy for how the person is using your product, the environment. The person is in an RV, or that person lives in a remote location with the Wi-Fi is terrible, and you have to download a 2 GB installer. like Photoshop. Oh, that's a problem. Okay, so you really want to be with the person. I wrote an article on Medium called, it's a 3-part series article that I did in partnership with growthhackers.com called the Customer Empathy Framework. And that is a framework that I've built and I provide to my team to really make sure that the voice of the customer is at the center of everything we do, so that you have these qualitative insights at all times in the center of your organization, so that, because I really believe that qual is, you can never go wrong by talking to customers. So it's very important it penetrates the entire organization. So it's a very simple framework on the steps that you got to do to make sure that you have that loop. Then once we have all that, once you have your Northstar metric, once you have these people, all the support, it's time to come up with hypothesis. We use a product that I love, Airtable. I'm sure some of you use it already. It's a fantastic tool. It's like a spreadsheet on steroids. And what you do is we have a framework where we put hypothesis, status, upside, confidence, and effort. And it's a framework that forces everyone in the team to think with hypothesis. What is the hypothesis that I have? What is the upside, which is basically what we call upside is the forecasted impact. What's interesting is that we didn't have, for a long time, forecast. And we didn't have a forecast tool, so everyone was putting medium. I'm not sure. I think it's medium. We had medium, medium, medium. But over time, you want people to say confidence. Confidence is in your history and experience as a marketer. Is that a moonshot, or is that something that you know you've done in the past works? And how many engineers and product managers and engineers you need? Engineers and designers. And then what we do, we automatically compute a score that allows us to prioritize things. If something is high impact, low effort, high confidence, you should do that first. But this forces everyone to think that way instead of just being an opinion and the loudest person in the room. You want to have an experimentation platform to do your A/B test. I really believe initially you should not build that. You should go third party, especially if you're a startup. There's so many awesome tools. Braze for marketing automation, Amplitude for behavioral analytics, all these mixed panel, whatever. They're amazing. You've got also at Adobe, we've got Marketing Cloud. That is something, but for startup, it's not the same. It's not the same price point. But the thing is, you want to be able to have a platform that you can rely. The more time you spend in setting things up, the lower the ROI is going to be. The last thing is you want to set a timeline. When I was talking to Sean Ellis from Growth Hackers a while back, the first time I started doing growth at Adobe, he said you want to make sure that you box your team, you give a timeline so that everyone feels like there's a milestone. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, well, what could we do? What could we do? So you want to set a window and say, okay, you have 90 days. This is our North Star. By the end of the 90 days, we want the North Star to go up 5%. Go and run and work. You want this to be 3 months because if it's like 30 days, sometimes some tests take longer, but also you don't want people to just start freaking out and do stupid things. You want to let time for people to go back to the data, talk to people. So crawl, walk, and run. I'm gonna have a link at the end so you can download this. I'm sorry, I have to accelerate. Crawling is really about proving the model and surviving skepticism. This is where we were, and in some areas in the product organization where we still have nascent teams, that's still where we are. You want to prove velocity. You want to go after low-hanging fruits so that executives start feeling like this is the right setup. You want to target simple metrics. It's fine if initially you target vanity metrics. It's fine because you want to just show that the model, the way people work, the way people feel, the velocity is increased, and you can say, we're increasing these numbers. Over time, you want to increase precision. And initially, you don't even need an experimentation platform. You can just do manual rollout and have a data analyst pull the numbers manually. Then you can start walking by increasing the precision and have your Northstar metric and really start defining what are the input variables and start doing forecasting so you can tell your executives, oh, this is the impact that we believe we're going to have if we do these things. And set really your team responsible and accountable for that. And then later, you want to really optimize for scale with probably building your own platform. There's a lot of companies that, big companies that have started with third party. And then as they move and start growing, they realize that there are limitations. But because they've used a third party, they know the requirements, and they can start building something that's even better than third party. And then you can start building predictive models. We have teams at Adobe. We're lucky to have a lot of data scientists, and we are building predictive models so we can detect when a user is about to churn or when a user is failing, and we can respond to that before rather than later. Then I'll end with where does the team sit and the organization. So you can have the VP of growth that sits in parallel to the marketing organization, really focused on growth. The beauty of that model is that you can really define the culture of the entire organization and kind of like break status quo and do things differently. What's a little bit tricky is that you're going to have designers that will feel sometimes weird that they're not part of the design team from the product team. Or you will have marketers that don't feel like they're, in terms of like mentoring, they're not part of the marketing organization. But you know, this can work, and this is how a lot of companies are doing it. You can also have growth as cross-functional. So you have basically the different products, the different organizations lend resources. I'm going to give you a PM. I'm going to give you a marketer. I'm going to give you a designer. And you have growth organized as a kind of like everyone is loaning resources. This is the model we use at Adobe, except that because we have 33 products, we can't do that. So what we do is we have a centralized growth team that I drive. And we fund the growth squads embedded in each product team with a PM, a designer. And what we do is we provide the platform, the insights, some of the tools, the methodology, the frameworks, all the things I walked you through with the Northstar metric, the pipeline, and all these tools. And we basically tell the team, you've got the tools, you've got everything, you've got the people, we're going to help you, we're going to incubate growth, and we'll let them figure it out. And obviously, we help them. OK, so growth in product, I believe that ultimately growth in product, maybe it's going to blend at some point, but one thing I'm telling our chief product officer is that my dream is that we can start prioritizing features in the products based on growth opportunities. So we can really start saying, hey, we should be building this feature before this one because we believe that if we have this, this will be the impact. That's where we got to be. And so I really hope we're going to get there, and I believe so. That's why I'm still at Adobe. So maybe next year I'll talk about that at some point. So summary, get to product fit. It's a full funnel experience. If everyone does growth, no one is really doing it. You want a team dedicated to it. You don't want to focus on lagging indicators. You want to focus on leading indicators and find your Northstar metric for your product. You want these experiments to be focused on that Northstar metric. I would say go third party if you're a startup and before building your own experimentation platform. There's so many. Walk before you run. You read a lot of articles on how Facebook has nailed it or Pinterest, and yes, but these are companies that have done growth for years. And they've done all the mistakes that you're going to make. But initially, what you want to do is just get people excited about the mission, get some things out, and it's going to be an awesome journey. But don't start thinking, oh my God, I need to nail everything, because really, it's most of the things you're going to be doing initially is going to be failing, but you're going to be learning a ton. This is the link to download the whole PDF. And that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Or do we have time for a few questions?
Yeah, I just want to say we have about exactly 10 minutes before we have
OK, great.
lunch, so.
OK. Any questions? Yes?
Yes, so I work for a really tiny startup, which I'm probably not the only one here, but like right now the size of our company is like the size of one of your growth squads. So I guess my question is, like at what point would we actually want to start growing out like a full team?
Yeah.
And you know, obviously, assuming we have the product, like that's the first step. But
yeah. So it's a good question. Let's take the, so we have a new product at Adobe we're working on right now. And the team is, how many people do you have?
6 full-time.
OK, so I mean, yeah, the team of, 6 to 10. Let's assume that scale. And the team is like, oh, we need a growth team. And I was telling them, no, I don't think you should have a growth team. I think initially you need to have a product manager that has a lot of aspiration to be a growth PM and be thinking a lot about activation and all these things. But I think initially it would be kind of crazy to have a team working in parallel. Like imagine if you had like 2-3 people just working in growth in parallel to the product team that's like 6 people. I'm sure the product team would be like, come on, we got to do all this work. And you have 3 people working on optimization. So I think first you want to reach a point where you have product market fit, where you feel like people are loving your product. And you want to get to a point where the team realizes that there's a ton of things they could optimize, but that no one can work on it. That's when you can maybe start getting just one person, like literally like one growth PM with a designer or an engineer to start incubating that inside the product. And you see how it goes. If you see that that person is successful and moving some things and it really goes well with the product team and you feel like the product team is feeling like that person's providing value, start scaling it. But initially, I'd say lean on someone. Hopefully you have a product manager where she or he's going to be passionate about thinking about product development that way. I think that's a good substitute for now. Yep. So yeah, the question was, isn't that just a better way to do product management and build products? I'm still processing that. I think in the last slide when I was talking about influencing product, that's where I am. Yeah. I had a meeting with our product team a while ago in Spark, and as a growth team, we were like, okay, we should be testing everything we put out, right? We should be killing features when people don't use them, and we should be testing everything we put out, and we should be doing prioritization using that framework. And I think that's ultimately where we're going to be. In companies, startups, or Facebook has pioneered that, where everything they put out is a test, right? And they're like, okay, if that feature is not driving that, we should kill it. So for us at Adobe, one of the things that we have to start doing is also deprecating stuff and testing things. But the history at Adobe has been that we create products for people that use this product for 25 years. And so removing a feature it's tough. Imagine if we were to remove a feature from Photoshop tomorrow, because we have reasons to do it, because in the grand scheme of things, not a lot of people are using it. I guarantee you there's going to be a war on social media from these 5,000 people. And I can totally understand why. They've been using the product for so many years. They love it, and that's how they do work. And we would say, well, you know, the data telling us that you don't really matter. We can do that. But I'm with you. Our goal as a growth team is to start influencing the product team to influence roadmap prioritization, and being able to even do forecasting. And reward is something I really like in an article from Casey Winters from Pinterest, where he says, you want to reward for usage and not shipping features, right? And way too often in organizations, it's like, we shipped it. Yes, press release. It's awesome. We're badass. Let's celebrate. And then it goes like this, it goes like that. And then after 6 months, no one's using the feature. What you want to do is say, let's test it. Once we have good signal that this feature is being used, let's announce it to the press. And then once you do that, you really optimize, because you test and scale. And if something doesn't work, it's not really getting traction, let's remove it. We're not there yet, but I think we will. I think it's also different between a product like desktop product and services. In our services, where it's a website, it's much easier to do that. Yes?
How would this apply to, how does growth specifically apply to, say, a product that the end user isn't the decision maker?
Like what?
Like, so, for example, if some of our end users didn't decide to use the software, they're being told they have to use it.
Oh, interesting. How do you do what?
How do you get the? I mean, how would you go about getting measurements? Doing it, because the whole thing essentially.
It's like people are being forced to use it.
Pulling data. Yeah, you're pulling data off of people who are. Yeah, let's say there's end users that are they're not being forced to use it. I mean, they are in a way.
It's a B2B type.
It's
I mean,
a-
it's
yeah.
like,
Decision being made in the
Right.
organization.
Yes.
and pushing it
Correct.
down.
yeah.
They're pushing it down. Yes.
So I'll give you an example, I think similar to what you have maybe in mind in some of our products used for education. So we have products like Spark, which is a video product, for instance, Spark Video, and used by teachers. And we see in the data that when we do NPS, so we had to do segmentation and analysis because we had like, sucks, I hate this, I don't like to do homework. We're like, what is this? And it turned out that it was all the kids that were using this in the classroom and they're like, I don't care, I don't like this thing. And so they have to use the product because their teachers like, today we're going to spend 3 hours build a video with Spark Video. And so, so you're asking about how do you measure and how do you grow such a product?
Growth methodologies to
So
what I see as a bad data set. Because
So-
the end users are the ones actually using the product.
it's a really good question. So I think for a product like Spark, we're not just going after education. So if your product is also going after a different market, you can use that pool to kind of like get an estimation of how successful people are with the product. Now, if you're really going after just a pool of a segment where that's the only users you have, where they have to use this product in that environment, I would say it's mostly about qualitative research and meeting with the people that tell these users to use it, and also talking to people who use it consistently. And yeah, that's what I would do. That's an interesting question.
Stay more on the
Yes, yes,
side. Okay.
yeah.
Let's make this last question, guys.
Yeah, and then you can come to me and can talk more. Last question. Okay. The question is about communicating what we're doing with growth around. So one of the things that has helped a lot is using Airtable to document all of the experiments that we're using. Before, people were like not 33 teams, but a lot of people were deriving experiments across all of Creative Cloud. And our VPs and executives were like, is there a place where I can see all the tests that are running? And you get 10 dashboards with different UX. Like, I'm using Trello, I'm using, it was a mess. So we standardized with the same framework. So that has helped a lot because suddenly there was this link that anyone in the company could go to and see what's running, what has worked and didn't work. So Airtable has been fantastic for that. The other thing is communicating over and over on the things that the team are doing. Slack is obviously an awesome way to do that. So what we did is we created a growth, CC Creative Cloud growth Slack channel where we have now around 200 people in the company, where we constantly, and I tell my team, it's about sharing and communicating. Every time there's an interesting experiment worth sharing, every time there's a cool product, we share and we communicate a lot. And so that is helping us build a central muscle where people know if they have a question and they want to know what's happening in growth, they go to Slack. In the Slack channel, we have pinned the Airtable. So the story is go to the Slack channel, that's where everything is. We've pinned the link to all the experiments. From the Airtable, we have a wiki where we define the methodology on how do you define an hypothesis, what is statistically significant, and how do you define all that. And then the last piece is being an evangelist for what your team and what you're doing. And that is what I like to call like a tour of growth, where you go with your deck and your results and your learnings, and you go meet with the executives and product leaders, and you say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is some of the results we're seeing. Do you want to partner with us? We want to create a growth squad for your product. How can we work together?
How often would you do that?
Generally, we've done it once to raise awareness on what we do. And so far, once you do that, then people start getting involved, start getting emails, being on Slack, and that's an ad hoc conversation. But generally what happens is that what you need is it's a bottoms-up approach. What you want is find someone in a product organization you want to reach or penetrate. You want to find your partner and your evangelist that's going to be sharing that out to the organization. So you want to really find who's going to be your lead for that. But yeah, it's something. I was talking to someone from Mercado Libre, and he wanted to build a growth team at Mercado Libre, and he was telling me like, do you have a deck like template I was like, I wish we could have a deck that works for all the executives, but coming up with the way you want to articulate the story and share that is a good place to start. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to stay here for an hour, so.